In the beginning, before camel tracks carved scars across the golden dunes, before the scent of burning date groves rose into the twilight, there were only two people strangers to each other, living beneath the heavy sun of the same wounded kingdom. The herdsmen of the West were a people shaped by centuries of migration, forged by the endless demands of the shifting Sahara. Their skin was the color of sun-baked stone, their eyes, hard and wary from a lifetime of survival in lands that swallowed the weak. They moved like phantoms with their flocks, reading the stars, the winds, and the sands as if deciphering ancient scrolls. Among them, honor was survival, and survival was conquest if need be. The people of the river the Nilotics were sons and daughters of the Nile's grace. Their land was a green ribbon of life, winding through the desert, where reeds swayed along the banks and palms whispered stories into the hot air. Temples rose from the earth like prayers, and sacred boats ferried the words of ancestors across the waters. They believed every guest was sent by the gods, a being to be honored with bread, salt, and shelter. When the herdsmen came, leading their camels and goats like living drums pounding against the sand, the river folk welcomed them. It was their first mistake. At first, the herdsmen accepted the hospitality, weaving themselves into the souks, marrying into households, settling near the fertile lands. But over time, disputes flared small. Bitter feuds over ruined fields, trampled irrigation dikes, and poisoned wells. Words soured into threats. Threats curdled into violence. Beneath it all was an unspoken ambition: to claim the river, to seize the floodplains, to own the earth where even the pharaohs once lay. The herdsmen called themselves the Sons of the Burning Wind, destined to roam, to conquer, to rule. The river folk called themselves the Children of the Inundation, bound by sacred duty to protect the life-giving waters of their ancestors. Thus, the first seeds of conquest were sown. One night, no different from others except in destiny the herdsmen struck. Towns that once sang with the laughter of market days and hymns to Osiris woke to the crackle of torches, the thunder of hoofbeats, and the shattering screams of mothers clutching their babes. The date palms wept ash. The sacred drums of the Nile were silenced mid-song, left to rot in the blackened ruins of abandoned shrines. Warriors, armed with ancient swords and memories of peace, fell before the merciless tide. The river bled, first conquering. The invaders swept across the land like a desert storm, claiming settlement after settlement, scarring the land with new, foreign names. The river folk who survived were herded into submission, their gods mocked, their histories torn from their mouths. Sacred groves were desecrated, temple walls were defaced, priests and wise women were paraded in chains. For a fleeting moment, it seemed the dust of the burning wind would bury the Nile forever. But the river remembers. The river folk bent like papyrus reeds in the flood, but they did not break. They fled into the marshes, into the lost temples hidden beneath the sands, into the deep wadis where forgotten gods still lingered. There, they began to weave something stronger than walls or weapons. They wove spirit. Survival. Young boys who once ferried baskets of figs now learned to track the footprints of invaders by starlight. Girls who once embroidered linen became silent runners, slipping through enemy patrols unseen. Elders who had lived through the fall of dynasties gathered the youth and whispered into their ears forbidden songs of Thebes, tales of defiance against Hyksos and Persian kings, and the prophecy of a free Nile. Food was scarce. Betrayal was a living shadow. Yet through it all, the Banu al-Ma'at, the children of death, endured. And then, in the stillness of exile, they came to know. Knowing. They understood that the war was not merely for land or cattle, it was a war for memory. The Sons of the Burning Wind sought not just to rule bodies, but to erase the very soul of the river, to sever the Nile from its people's blood. The river folk understood that survival was not enough. To forget who they were would be a death deeper than sword or flame, so they hid their language inside their dreams. They sang their sacred hymns to the river itself. They carved secret messages into the walls of forgotten tombs and taught their children to walk the sands with silence and cunning. They prayed not for peace. They prayed to be eternal. Thus was born a vision. Not merely to survive, but to reclaim their sacred right. The quest for the living Nile. Freedom became a creed, a secret priesthood of fire and blood. New warriors rose bearing not crowns or standards, but hearts ablaze with memory. They fought with words as much as spears, with symbols, songs, and secret brotherhoods. Every reclaimed canal, every redug well, every whispered name of an ancestor was a defiance. Children learned to sing both the mourning songs and the war chants. Every seed planted was a prayer against erasure. A new covenant was sworn, the oath of the last cataract. We are the dust of forgotten kings. We are the breath of the old river. We are the embers of a fallen sun. We are the voice that will not be silenced. Even if it takes 1,000 lifetimes, we shall rise with the flood. The conquerors had seized the land, but they could not hold the soul of the Nile. The war for freedom waged on, sometimes with bronze and fire, sometimes with words and dreams, sometimes with prayers carried in secret by the river breeze. And across it all, the river folk walked a path marked by fallen temples and unborn hopes. They knew now Freedom was not a city. Freedom was not a crown. Freedom was the sacred current that flows from heart to heart, never dying, only waiting. And so, the dust of their footsteps still rises, carried by the desert winds, carried by the river's sigh, carried by those who refuse to be forgotten. The quest for freedom never truly ends, it only passes from soul to soul, from dreamer to dreamer. What did you feel, wandering through the sands and waters of this story with us? What would you fight to protect if the soul of your people hung by a single reed? Share your voice in the comments below. Let it become part of the eternal river. If you believe in the power of stories to awaken, to heal, to ignite, then don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Folktales of Many Tribes, and ring the sacred bell so you'll never miss a single ripple of history reborn. Until we meet again, beneath the old stars and sacred waters, stay wild, stay wondrous, and always stay free.